When Jenny and I moved here, you guys know this, we bought the house with the tree that's eating the house, right? The large magnolia tree, everybody knows it, right? All right. So that tree, it literally is eating our house. But I moved here, and in Andover, we had owned a brand new house. So that house kind of came, everything was working in it, was perfect, and if it didn't, we had a warranty, so we could call somebody and they'd come fix it. Here we bought a house that was built in 1951, and so there have been things that needed fixed or updated that we've had to work on. Some of you know what that's, some of you have houses that were built like not in the 1900s, but in the 1800s, and you really know what I'm talking about. It's where you just have to work on that house and you're constantly having to fix things, and that's just part of being a homeowner, right? So when I moved here, my first 6 months at least, I was in Denton's hardware store at least 2 or 3 times a month. Anybody, can I get a hallelujah or an amen? Anybody been there? Yeah, all right. So I would go into Denton's hardware store, and I've kind of shared this with you guys before. There are things that men are good at that I, as a man, am not good at, right? Fishing, not one of my things. I enjoy it now. I still pray that I don't catch anything so I don't have to touch them, but I enjoy being out there with somebody, right? The same goes for building stuff. And you may go, Kent, you built a tree, like this crazy mansion tree house. I built that, but you can ask Jenny. For months on end, every night I was drawing pictures of tree houses, and I was like, what are we going to do about this? And I just have, if I'm going to do something, I have to think about it for months and years before I can actually execute it. So for me, to walk into a hardware store and have the guy or the gal behind the counter say, what can we help you with? I go, and here's what my answer usually becomes. I usually know the part I need, kind of, but when I walk in there, I'm like, I need that thingy that has the screw things on the end, and like you use it for stuff with sinks and water and stuff, and they're like, and this is my experience. This is my experience at Denton's, and I'm talking about this because of how fantastic my experience is. I walk in there and I say, I need the doohickey with the thingies and the dealies on it, and Steve goes, oh yeah, we got like 5 of those, come with me, right? I don't know how he knows what I'm talking about, but every time Steve knows what I'm talking about, and he walks me right back to the aisle, and he says, no, we got these and these, I think this is probably the one you need, and he walks me through, and I go, ooh, okay, so what do I do with the screwy thingies on it? And he's like, oh, you just do this. And he teaches me even how to use the doohickey with the screwy things on it, right? This is what is amazing about Denton's Hardware. I love walking in there, because there have been other times in my life where I've walked into a place, and this is my experience. There's a guy sitting behind the bar, you know, whatever, the counter, wherever it is, and they're like, what you need? And I'm like, I need the doohickey and the thing, and they're like, I don't know, what do you need? What it's called? And I don't know. And my experience, have you been in those places where like you have to know the right language, you have to know the things? My experience with those things, like when I lived in Andover and I would experience that at a shop, I would drive 20 or 30 minutes out of my way to find a Denton's Hardware store that would walk me to the piece, that would interpret what I said to find the thing, because this is my human experience. I don't know if you identify with this, but this is my human experience. I feel very insecure with things that I don't understand well. Can I get an amen? Yeah. Amen. Do you feel that? Let's think about this. Maybe for you, maybe you are the hardware genius. Maybe for you, you could build anything. You just look at things and they come together and build themselves, right? But maybe for ladies, have you ever walked into one of those teen stores, the teeny bopper stores? Charlotte Russe, is that one? Have you ever seen one of those? Or I just learned that it's not Aeropostale or postal. I thought it was Aeropostale, and the kids were like, no, you were old. It's Aeropostale, right? Have you seen this store in a mall before? Ladies, have you ever walked into one of those stores? You dress well, you keep yourself well, you take care of yourself, but you walk into that store and there's all the teeny boppers and they're like doing their thing, and you immediately begin to feel insecure. Have you felt that? Maybe for you it's not the store shopping experience. Maybe for you that you walk into a conversation and you find out what everybody's talking about is their college experience, what they did at college and how great it was, how friends they made, and you didn't ever go to college, and you immediately feel this big around those people. You're an expert at what you do, but you feel this big around those people because you don't have that experience and you feel insecure. Some of you, tell me you've never had this experience. Your grandkid or even a great-grandkid takes one of these things. Have you seen these before? Look, right? It turns on. It's not that pretty right now, but they take one of these things, they're called a smartphone. Have you seen these? And they put it in your hand, and they just like, Grandma, let me show you how to use it. And they're touching stuff, and you're like, I just think I'm going to break it. Take it away, right? My grandma will not even look at one of these. She's like, I don't need technology. And I'm like, no, ma'am, you do not. You do not need technology. But the instant you are a person who, if I asked you to, could run a large corporation probably. You are smart. You've ran families. You've ran farms. You have raised thousands of kids. I don't know how many. You are the kind of person who can do just about anything. But the instant somebody puts one of those smart doohickeys in your hand, you don't feel so smart. You feel this big. You feel insecure and insignificant, right? Do you feel what I'm talking about? This morning, I wanted to share something with you that may be a little alarming. Maybe you get it, you already know this, but it may be something that is thought-provoking for you. There are lots and lots, I would even say hundreds of people in this town today who, if they were to walk into this church, would feel just as insecure in this place as I do in the Denton's Hardware. Did you know that? There are people who walk into this place, and do you know what they're thinking about? They're not going, oh, I can't wait to worship Jesus. I can't wait to come and listen to a sermon. You know what they're thinking about? Did I dress right? Am I going to look like everybody else? Are they going to judge me when I walk through those doors? Where can I sit so that I don't sit in somebody else's seat? Is it okay if I sit here? Which door do I even walk into? Have you ever thought about that? How confusing, if you've never been to a church before, which door do I go into? Where are the bathrooms? What do I do with my kids? Oh, there's Sunday school classes at 9 o'clock. How do I get involved in one of those? I don't know. Do I just show up? Does somebody invite me? There are 1,000,001 questions going through a person's head when they walk through the doors of this church. And it's not just our church. It's every single church on planet Earth. People walk through, and do you know what? Where you feel secure, where you feel confident. For me, this is probably the place where I feel most confident. Thus, I'm up on a stage, right? I'm doing my business up here. But there are people who walk through those doors, and immediately they feel this big. Can you even imagine that? Can you even fathom that? I can even prove it to you. You may be going, Ken, I don't know if I believe that. Let me prove it to you. Do you see these? You know what these are, right? I ask people to fill these out every week. Yeah? These are copies of some of them. These are like the ones that we used before. We have the blue and white ones over here. There are, I don't know, let's stack maybe 30 of these. I don't know, maybe more, I don't know, less. There's a stack of them here. Every one of these is a family who, in the last year since I have been here, have walked through those doors. I have personally contacted them, talked to them. And every one of them has said, I really enjoyed the sermon. I really enjoyed the worship. Our kids loved it. Almost every one of those people does not come to church here anymore. Is that shocking to you? There is easily 35 people or more that have come through the doors that these cards represent. These cards don't even represent everybody, because not everybody has filled out a card, right? Who walked through those doors and they felt insecure and they loved the programming, but they weren't able to connect with the people well. And because church isn't a program, you guys know a church, remember this, Vernon, all right? What is this? It's not a bunch of fingers wiggling, right? The church is the people. And they didn't feel like they connected with us somehow. Now, I want to share with you, this is not a unique circumstance among churches. And I also am not sharing this with you to make you feel guilty, although I know it very well could make you go, oh, what did we do wrong? I'm sharing this with you because if this information just stays up here and in our staff office and you never know about it, we can't do anything to fix it, can we? I don't want us to feel guilty or feel shameful over this. That's not my purpose. Please, please, please. Take off the hat of guilt. Go, Kent is freeing me from guilt. I don't have to feel guilty about this. What we are trying to do is figure out a way to move forward. I think I have the answer, and I think some of it has to do with Steve. So I want you to keep Steve and Denton's in your head, all right, Mr. Steve, who the instant I say I need to do it with a screwy thingy on it, Steve goes, oh yeah, come with me, right? I want you to remember that. But I want to tell you real quickly about a study that was done on a college university campus. They brought in students and they would pair them off into twos. And they would have one student who was told, somebody is going to tap out a song for you. Okay? They're not going to sing anything, they're just going to tap. Alright? And they're just going to tap a song, and you're going to listen to the song, and then you are going to write what you think the song was. You're going to write it down, right? The other student was told, you're going to tap a song. I just want you to tap the song out, and then I want you to write down how likely you think the other person is, how likely it is that the other person will know the song that you're tapping. All right? Does this make sense to you? I want to, well, before I tell you the results of it, let's try it. You guys want to try this? It's so exciting. Okay, get my tapper up near my microphone. All right, everybody listen up close. Guess what song I'm tapping, all right? Are you ready? Here it goes. That's so nice, wasn't it? How many of you think you know what it is? Raise your hand. You guys, are you kidding me? There's something wrong with you guys. What? I was tapping the beat to the melody. You guys want to know what it was? Somewhere over the rainbow. Do you hear it now? Bluebirds fly. Oh man, I just went off. That's what I was looking up. So here's. You know what? In that experiment, it was very intriguing. The people who tapped out the song thought, almost 100% of them thought that the person across from them would know what song they were tapping. Guess how many people were able to guess what song they were tapping? 0. 0. Do you know why? Well, this is what the researchers ended up figuring out. The person who tapped the song could not tap the song without singing the melody in their head, right? You just do it. You just, and so for them, they hear the melody, they hear the melody and the words and the line, everything coming together in this beautiful song, and it's all going along with the taps. And so to them, it just is like, everybody should know this. Everybody should hear it when it's tapped out. But the person on the other side, all they had were the beats. They had no music to go with the beats. And what they found out was that it took all of the information for somebody to actually know what song was being sung and played out. This morning, here's what I think Steve does for me when I walk into his store. Steve takes the song that is in his head. Now, it's not a literal song, but it is how much inventory we have, knowing all of the parts and where they're at and how to find them. Steve knows all of that, right? And beyond that, I mean, he knows the right people to even talk to if you need help with something. Steve has all of the information. And when I walk into that store, Steve takes all of the information he has and he gives it away to me. Yes? I say, I need this. It's a good transaction. It's an interesting, easy transaction because I tell him what I need and Steve is able to bring me into that. And he doesn't expect me to try to figure out the song. He just says, look, this is what I'm tapping. This is how it goes. It's somewhere over the rainbow, and this is how we do it, and this is how you play it, and you're going to want to really, just let that note soar when it gets up there, right? Just let it. Oh, it's beautiful. And this is what Steve is able to do for me when I walk in. And the problem is in the church, folks. In the church, we don't have a unified language around how to describe to somebody what it means to come alongside of us and walk with us through this intimacy. And all of these people have come into this place and they've loved the programming. I believe some of them have told me that you are some of the friendliest people they've ever met. But they didn't know how to get connected to you. Does that make sense to you? I feel like people who are able to get connected in a church, in lots of churches, this is almost universal across churches, this problem. The people who are able to make that leap either have relationships already within the church, or they are very much go-getters. Like I imagine Scott Gegg has a very, like it would be hard for him not to find his way into a church somewhere because Scott is a go-getter and he's going to figure it out, right? But a lot of us are not like that. A lot of us are not built that way, and if we feel insecure about something, we feel this big, what's your tendency in life? To run away, right? All that to get us to the book of Ephesians chapter 4. Ephesians chapter 4. Keep all of this in mind, all right? Keep Steve in mind. Keep the tapping of the rhythm and the melody in mind. Keep all of that in your minds as we go to Ephesians chapter 4, verse 11 through 16. Now, Paul is talking to one of I think, the favorites. You know, there's the favorite kind of child. This is one of the favorites. The church in Ephesus is a church that loves well, they lead well. There's not a lot of like, hey, you guys aren't doing these things right. Paul does give him direction, though. And this direction that we're about to hit on, he is following, he's kind of doing a little section about what it means to be the church, how we live on purpose as a church. And he gives this whole section on pastors. It's the role of the pastor, of the apostles, of the teachers, of the evangelists. Their job is to equip the body of Christ. Paul is using this language of the body, that we are all in a body, we all work together, and it's the job of the people up here to equip you for works of service. All right? Does this make sense? So this helps you understand the role of a pastor. My job is not actually to preach. My job is not actually to do hospital visits. My job is not to perform weddings and funerals, although those are all a piece of what I do. My job is to raise up leaders, to equip the saints, right? My job is to equip the saints, to raise up leaders, and then to release them. That's actually when the elders asked me, when the interview team was interviewing me, I said, this is what I view my role as a pastor. It doesn't mean I don't do those things, okay? So don't hear me saying Ken doesn't think those things are important. What it means is that my primary focus, my primary role is to raise up leaders, to equip the saints, the body of Christ, and then to release them for acts of service. That makes sense to you? Raise up and release. That's what I'm trying to do up here. He gives to you and I as part of the body of Christ in Ephesians 4, 11 through 16. And this is what he said. He's speaking to us, and he's just talked about how pastor will be equipping you so that you're raising up, the body is maturing, it's becoming who it is. And he speaks to the body, he says, instead, speaking the truth in love, we will grow and become in every respect the mature body. So we are not just a teenage at camp. I started to lose my voice, and I started to turn back into a 14-year-old boy. I was like, hey guys, how are you? Because I was losing my voice, and I was talking about we're not to stay at a certain stage. We're to completely mature as the body of Christ. To grow old, to become stately, right? To have authority when we speak. This is, in every respect, the mature body of Him who is the head, that is Christ. He is the head of this whole entity. And this is what he says, verse 16. We're going to zoom in on 16, and we're going to even zoom in closer to the rest of it. He says this, from Christ, the whole body is joined and held together by every supporting ligament. This is you and I. Paul has described in other places the body, and when he describes it, he talks about how individual members are actually members of the same body, all working together. When he describes these ligaments that were joined together, the whole body, that is you and I. Look at yourself, real quick, look good. Man, I'm good looking, all right? Everybody, look at yourself and give yourself an I'm good looking, all right? You're welcome to do it, all right? Quick, I'm serious, just look at you. You are vital to the body of Christ. You are vital. This is why in Hebrews, in chapter 10, in that same passage that I quoted a little bit from earlier, he says, let us not give up meeting together, but let us encourage one another every day. Right? Because this whole thing is not a solo event. This is a team sport. And you matter. You, even if you're just a ligament, you are holding this thing together. How many of you have snapped a ligament or torn a muscle? You know, even if it's a little muscle, you know when that thing's not functioning right. Right? You hear me today. This is not the point of my sermon, but you hear me today. You are vital to this body of Christ. Young and old, you are vital. From Him, from Christ, the whole body is joined and held together by every supporting ligament. Listen to this. It grows. This is the part you need to underline. It grows and builds itself up in love. It grows and it builds itself up in love. Notice he doesn't say the pastor builds up, although the pastor is part of this, right? Because he is part of the body. It does not say the elders grow and build you up, even though they are a part of this because they're in the body. It says that the body, right? If you were to take this comma, I'm not good at grammar, but if you took the information that's between these commas, I believe it's describing kind of what the body of Christ is. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I'm not good at grammar. Just you would see that what he's saying is from Him the whole body grows and it builds itself up. You build yourself up in love as each part, get this, as each part does its work. Do you know you have a role here? This is what Vernon talked about last week, right? This was the whole point. You have a role here. You are vital to this organism. We are a living creature. We are the body of Christ. You matter so very much. These words, grows and builds. I don't bring out the Greek, right? Boom, here's the Greek. I'm not that pastor most of the time. I heard somebody just recently say that Greek should be like good underwear or something like that. You should, I don't remember how it went. Like you shouldn't have holes in it, but nobody should ever have to see it, kind of thing. All right, that's kind of like Greek is something that we kind of pastor. I study every single week, but I hide it because most of it is more for me to kind of give me depth in what I'm doing up here. But I think this word is important for you guys to understand. The word, for grows and builds is okodome. I know it's got an I there, but it's okodome. Everybody turn to your neighbor and say, okodome. No, like you're a samurai, all right? Okodome, all right? I like making you guys do funny things, all right? Okodome, this is what it literally means. To increase the potential of something. I like that, don't you? That what Paul is saying to them is, you need to form okodome. You need to increase the potential of the body of Christ around you. I used to have a hog, you know, like hog, not like I had like hog, and it was sweet. It had like big handlebars on it, and it had leather seats and chrome wheels. Do you have a picture of it? Is it on there? Yeah. Oh, there it is. It was a moped, all right. That sucker had 49 cc's of unadulterated power, my friends. I could hit an easy 35 miles an hour on that sucker. I used to ride up into people's yards and do donuts, and I couldn't actually peel out, but I'd just do a donut in your yard just for fun. I was tough. I had a moped gang at one time. We were called the Moped Mafia. It was really fun. But this moped, those are all true. This moped was awesome. It really had 49 cc's, and I could get it up. If I was going downhill, I could get her up to 35 miles an hour. And we used to, our Moped Mafia gang used to love to get in front of people and slow them down. We'd all ride real slow. I decided I wanted to provide some okodome for this thing. So I took the air intake and I drilled holes into it so it would get like a richer mix of air to the fuel mix. I then up-jetted the carb so that the sucker was getting just and I put this muffler on. You see that muffler? That's my tough, like, whoo, that muffler just, man, that sucker would sing when I take it out. I increased this thing to where it would go 50 miles an hour. And I would I'd be right. And pretty soon, like, when I got up into the, like, 47 mile an hour, because it slowly is going up, it started going, like, bullets would be flying out of it. And it was scary as all get out, but it was super fun. I was providing okodome. I was increasing the potential. It was already there. It was just this latent potential. It was hiding away. And it took somebody actually grabbing a hold of it and being intentional about drawing it out. Okodome grows and builds up itself. This is not about Kent building you up. Do you see that? This is a powerful change in perspective. Paul is saying is that you grow and build one another up. Listen to this. I wrote this down when I was thinking about this. I wrote that it is the job of a Christ follower to add jet fuel to the engine. You are to increase the potential of the church by upjetting the faith of those around you. It is okodome. It is not about me. It is not about the elders, although we are all a part of it. It is about you increasing the okodome. So I thought about, this is where this board is going to come in a moment. I'm going to have them, if you guys, our teams, would pass out some, they have some handouts that I'm going to pass out. And I know sometimes pastors ask you to write stuff down and you're like, I'm not writing that down. I would like to ask you to seriously fill in the blanks this morning, okay? There are not a lot of blanks, but I'd like to ask you to fill in the blanks this morning. Over the past 6 months, I have been talking about this idea with our staff. This is part of what I've spent the last month on it. So I've given a lot of thought, I've given a lot of careful thought to this idea of helping us update our faith. How do we do that? Now I want you to keep in mind the idea of Steve at Denton's and him helping me as I walk through. I think what Steve is doing is providing okodome, right? He is increasing the potential of Kent. I walk in there, and nobody who knows nothing, and Steve is able to take me and give me all of his knowledge and walk alongside of me. He is, in essence, tapping out the melody that I need to know. So this morning, 6 months ago, I started asking this. I talked a little bit with our eldership about it. I've just kind of been sharing this. And one of the questions that I think that when people walk into a church, you know, we talked about there's all these people who fill out cards and stay. When they walk in, I think that they walk in and it feels like there's fog in the environment. Have you ever been out on a foggy day and you're driving? You have to drive slower, don't you? You have to be more careful. You have to be more thoughtful. I think they walk into church and it almost feels foggy. I don't know what to do with this. I don't know how things function here. I don't know where things are at. And so I started saying, how do we help demystify, not that it's a mystical experience, but how do we start to actually remove the fog from people's view? Does this make sense? And as we talked about it, I had a whiteboard in my office, and we started writing down our ideas, and today, I'm going to give you kind of the summation of those ideas. I have actually, in fact, over the last month, written this handbook. It's called Plus One Living, and it is a handbook that really describes us in more depth. We ordered them. The printing place that we got these done at actually had some problems, some malfunctions, so we didn't get them in time for this week. But we will have them next week. We'll actually have them in the office probably by Wednesday. So if you wanted to get a head start, you're welcome to stop by and get one. But my goal is for everybody in church to have one of these. It is. I told Bob Bulwer that I wrote a book, and he was like, "Oh, that's great." I said, "I didn't say it's a great book. I just said I wrote a book, right?" So don't judge me, but I do think that the ideas contained in this, it's very short read. It's like 90 pages. You should be able to read it in just even a couple days easy, with just a little bit of time. But the ideas contained in this, my hope is, will transform our church, because the thought process behind this, what I'm going to share today, and what I'm going to share all month long, the thought process was to remove the mist, to make it a very clear process. Most of you, those of you who are Bible scholars, will see me describing biblical concepts and biblical ideas with modern words and trying to give us all a common language that we can all utilize at the same time. I do want to say this. Some of you have been in church long enough that you're used to pastors bringing up new ideas. That idea sticks around for a month or two and then you never hear about it again. That is not the point of this. I talked in the forward on it. This is really me describing how I've lived as a Christ follower for the last 25 years. And how Joe Lynn has lived as a Christ follower for the last 40 years. And how many of you already live as Christ followers, but we have taken that, we've tried to document it, and we've tried to give language around it that all of us can use all the time, and we can all understand at the same time. And you can see how if we all speak the same language, and we all are very clear about what we're doing, for people walking in the door, it will be very immediate to know how to move forward in this church, how to get connected, how to find their way home to God. Does that make sense to you? So I'm not trying to implant something on you. I'm just trying to define something for us, okay? So if you guys will, I hope you have your papers. We're going to start running through this. This idea came about. We literally were talking about this process, and we ended up calling it the 4G church. This is not like cell phone, 4G, LTE, all right? This is because they were literally 4Gs, okay? So, but these 4Gs are steps that as people move into our church, we believe that if every person will take these steps, and they're not steps that you take once, they are steps that are ongoing in your life, but if people will take these steps, they will start to find a real closeness with God. They will start to get connected with the church and find their purpose in life through this. Does that make sense to you guys? So here's the first step. It is the God step. All right? The first G is God. This step is the step that every single person needs to take. It is confessing, believing, repenting, baptizing. These are the things that are made up of. It is attending church weekly, like becoming an actual part of a local body of Christ. It is tithing. It is us becoming more and more a part of what it means to be the body of Christ, for us to take God's steps. These are another way of describing it, the blank underneath your God step is faith. It is the faith steps that we all take. And as you can see, those faith steps are not something that you will take once in your life. They're steps that you will take over and over again. You will continue to always be living out the God step if you are moving forward in your faith with Christ. Because our velocity with Jesus is always either moving towards the cross or away from it. You cannot stay where you're at. You cannot stay where you're at. You're either moving forward or you're moving backwards. And this is what the step of God, the God step is. Every single person in here needs to take a God step. The next step is this. It's the groups step. Everybody write down groups. This step is about finding friends. I know that doesn't seem super spiritual maybe to you. But the group step is about finding friends. This is you coming up on a work day when we're pulling weeds out here and we're beautifying the lot, and you coming and finding this is one of the things I love about the 4Gs, okay? Plus one living, we're going to talk about in a moment. Is that it gives a greater, deeper purpose to everything that we're doing. All of a sudden, I'm not just pulling weeds out there. I'm trying to build relationships with people who are pulling weeds alongside of me, helping them take their group step. Does this make sense to you? So all of a sudden, everything has a deeper meaning to it, a deeper purpose to it, and you may find a group of friends in that. That's all this is. Sometimes it's a very structured environment. It's going to a small group, like the women's Bible study on Wednesday night. Most of you who are in that have a lot of sincere friendships, yes? It's not just about the Bible study. It's not just come in, study, and then leave like you're taking a college course. It is about the relationship that happens in there. Imagine how long you would actually last in this church. Just imagine for a moment, for real. How long would you last without a real, true relationship with somebody? How many of you have somebody you try to sit next to every week? Anybody? Lots of you? Yeah? Right? You are taking a group step. I want you to understand we're already doing this stuff. The New Testament church, if you don't think this idea of having friendships is biblical, the New Testament, remember the old word was fellowship? Remember that? Everybody used fellowship? That this step was taken with the New Testament church right away after Peter preaches on the day of Pentecost. How many of you remember how often they met together? Anybody? Every what?
Daily.
Every day. They met together every day. They prayed together. They submitted to the apostles' teaching. They were breaking bread together, right? I mean, these were the things. They were taking a group step. Again, I want you to understand, this is just a language to identify biblical concepts. They took a group step. The next step that you take, so everybody needs to take a God step. Everybody needs to take a group step. I actually think it is the bridge between these 2 points that is the most difficult for people. This is where people in our church and most churches find a difficulty in making the leap from here because it feels like, I know, again, you have the melody in your head. You already have friendships here. You already know everybody. I know how everything works here. But for the new person, finding friends in this place feels like you're asking me to step from here to over there. Have any of you ever felt that in a church? Maybe not here, but you've been in a church? Yes? Thank you, right? That's what it feels like. It feels like you're asking me to step from here to clear over there. This is why one of the things I'm working on right now, and we're going to be working on over the next probably years, is creating intermediary steps. Look, you'll see that some written out on this. There's a starting point thing on it. I would like to start a class at some point that we just hold every once in a while. It's called Starting Point, and legitimately we can come up and say, hey, if you're relatively new here, do you have a class for you that helps you find relationships, right? And we just are honest about it. Help people make that transition to finding a starting point in our church. I know it might seem silly. If you already know the song, you're going, why can't they just sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow? But they don't know the song. They just hear tapping. This is such a vital step. This is where most of those people all left our church. They may have even liked you, but they didn't know how to get to know you, right? If you figured it out, if you've been here for more than a year, it is probably because somebody took you alongside and was a Steve in your life. We're going to talk about that in a moment, plus one living. But there was Steve who said, hey, come with me. I go to a Sunday school class where you can find a group of people who will love you. And you actually sat with them and you helped them understand. And do you know when you say your prayer request, how many of you ever describe what the person is or what they're going on? I get a list every week. Sometimes I know nothing about what's going on except for a name. Because I don't know those people. I haven't lived here for 30 years, right? Think about it. This is, again, it's not about making us feel guilty. It's about helping us understand what it's like from this perspective. So it's a God step. It's a group step. The next step is a growing step. These are the next 2 steps are the steps that oftentimes people don't take. They might take the God step. They might take the group step. While these 2 are actually easier, they a lot of times won't take them because they don't see the necessity for them. This one is a formation. The blank is above the little Bible picture. This step is about formation. This is about going to Sunday school. and actually sitting under somebody's tutelage who knows more about the Bible than you. This is about reading books in your own free time that teach you a deeper way of following Jesus. This is about when Kent says in a sermon there's this word called okodome, that you actually take it upon yourself to go and grow and to say, I didn't know there were resources about the Greek. I'm going to go to a Christian bookstore and ask, I would like to start learning what the Greek words are in the Bible. How can I do that? And they'll walk you through some resources. This is about you taking your faith to the next level and not just, it kind of breaks my heart. This whole discussion started about all of the 4G church and plus one living. It all started with baptism for me. Because about 10 years ago, I was a youth pastor and we were baptizing lots of kids, and then eventually they would kind of slowly leave. Have you seen that happen a lot with people? They get baptized and then you don't see them again? I think it was because we were making the goal line. I would tell them, this is not the goal, this is not the end, it's not the finish line, this is the starting line. But guess how we all view it? It's the goal, right? We got them baptized. They're going to heaven now. And then they fall away from Jesus. And 10 years later, they're partying and drinking just like they were. And that was just like something they did a long time ago. See, I want the goal to be the goal Jesus established for us. Do you remember what it was in Matthew 28? Darren talked about it. Who knows? Make disciples. Not baptize people. That's a part of making disciples. But I want us to change the metrics by which we measure ourselves. We right now, I want to measure baptisms. That's great. But I want to measure disciples. And that takes us performing okodome, building up the body, growing all of us, building itself up. So you need to take a growing step. You need to start forming your faith because the next step is coming. And this step is the going step. This step is the going step. This is where the function is lived out of being a Christ follower. You've taken a God step, you've taken a group step, you've taken your growing step, you've actually grown in your faith, and now you are going to live it out. You are going to go with it. You are going to start serving in the children's ministry. Some of you men are going to go, you know what? I'm going to take that up. I'm going to live it out. I'm going to lead these kids to know Jesus, and I'll love them and play with them and have fun and be a dad figure in their life. And you're going to go with your faith. You're going to take all the other stuff and you're going to live it out. This is Jesus saying, the Son of Man did not come to what? Does anyone remember being served, but to serve. And to give his life as a ransom. Jesus came to go. This is about you inviting people to church with you. This is about you walking hand in hand with other people. Does this all make sense to you guys? I know it's a little bit maybe boring. But hopefully this is making sense to you. You'll get the picture. I do want to ask you guys a question because this is what I think happens with the 4Gs. I think the 4Gs help us to see our progress through the church so much clearer. It's like in the mornings, I wake up literally, sometimes at night I put my glasses over and they fall off, and I have to call one of my kids in because I'm so blind. I can't find my glasses in the morning. And I'm like, hey, Peter, come find my glasses. He gets on his hands and knees and he finds them and I put them on. I think the 4Gs help clarify for us how a person moves through the church. Every single person in here needs to be taking a God step, a group step, a growing step, and a going step. And these steps are not, I know, you may be going, Kent, they're not really linear like that. Not everybody moves in that fashion. I don't think they are. I just wrote them this way because it's easier to understand. You probably, especially if you're a mature follower of Christ, you need to be doing all 4 steps at once. You need to be living this out. Here's what I want to do for a moment. I want you to look around the room. Pick somebody, random person. You can know them very well or know them a little bit. Pick them. Go. Look around. I don't see you looking. Pick them out. Okay. Here's what I want you to do. Think about for a moment. Don't say anything out loud. How much do you know that person? How well do you know them? Very well, a little bit. Kind of know their name. You know everything about them. You know their family. I want you to think about this for a moment. Where are they in this process, the 4Gs? Have they taken a God step? Do they have friends here? Have they taken a group step? Some of you may have looked at somebody who's brand new this week, and they haven't taken. And sometimes people will take a group step before they take a God step because they belong, and then they start to believe with us. Does that make sense? Have they taken a growing step? Are they involved in the Sunday school? Are they intentional about growing their faith? Are they getting around people who know Jesus better than they do? Are they intentional about it? Are they going? Are they invited into a church? Do they serve? is what I mean by it clarifies how somebody walks through church. You can look at a person who just walked through the door, and you can start to quickly evaluate, hey, it's great to have you at church here. Is this your first time? No, we used to go to this church. They might have already taken a God step. They might be needing to find a group, right? You can immediately become a Steve. Here's our inventory. Here's where I want to walk you right to here. Welcome, this is the group step. Can I help you find a group, right? Not that we don't want to be creepy. Don't actually do that. But you understand what I'm talking about. This is the idea that we are creating a clarity around how somebody moves through the church. And I've said it, I know this is a little different for a sermon, but I need to set all this up because everything I'm going to do this year is going to be predicated upon you understanding this. So please engage with me. The last thing is this. It's +1 living. I already said that Jesus gave us our marching orders. I'm going to read a little bit of this stuff. That is to go and make disciples. My primary role as a Christian, as a Christ follower, is to make more disciples of Jesus. Right? It is not to make a disciple of Kent. It's not to make a disciple of Bob. It's not to make a disciple of Kim or Chris or Bill. It's those. I'm making disciples for Jesus. And so +1, it was our staff sat around and we tried to use these words to come up with a way to actually describe how a person makes a disciple of Jesus. And this is what we came up with, was the idea of +1. I do believe this is where the Okodome finds its real power. I think without this concept, all of the rest of this is very impersonal. It's really almost impractical. We're never going to be able to describe that to somebody every time they walk through the doors. Here is where the +1 is. It becomes the engine that drives this entire model. Does that make sense? So this word right here is engine. It's engine. +1. Living occurs when we bring other people with us. It's a very simple concept. If you read the book, as we read it, and as I'm going to talk over the next month or so, we're going to find that +1 living is not about you adding a bunch of stuff. Don't you hate it when preachers come up and they're like, I've created this new program and it's going to take all of the energy of the church and everybody needs to sign up and volunteer. This is a totally different concept. It is not about creating a new program for you to have to get involved in. It is about taking what you already do and repurposing it for the kingdom of God. Does that make sense to you? I'll explain that a little bit further in just a second. Finally, this is it. The +1 living turbocharges it. Provides the Okodome to everything we do by making it both personal and practical. +1 living is simply this. Think about the person again, just for a moment, that you looked at and you picked out. You start to think of them not just the person you go to church with, but somebody who could be your +1. Bob Bulwer did this with me. See, I needed to be a +1 with somebody else. Bob is further along in his faith than I am. Yes, everybody agree with that? Yes, Bob, you are. Bob called me and said, hey, would you like to come with me on this visit? House call, right? I think I shared that several weeks back. I went with him. And as I left that day, I thought, I'm learning more. I've said this before. I'm learning more. I know how to do church pretty well, probably better than a lot of people in here. But I'm learning more about being a Christ follower from being in this church with you guys. You know why? Because some of you are taking me under your wing and making me one of your +1s. You didn't know to describe it that way, but you were doing that. You were taking me with you in your faith. You were walking me through these things, and you may not have had the categories to talk about it, but you're talking to me about your God steps. Ken, I'm going through this suffering, and here's how I'm dealing with it, and Jesus is the one that's getting me through it. It's a God step, a step of faith, to walk through suffering. Everybody needs to take the God step. I'm learning more about a depth of the God step than I've ever had by being here. Everybody, I'm learning about groups, and everybody, I need to take these steps, you need to take them. And what +1 living does is it says, I am going to look around and take you with me on this faith journey. And I'm going to be intentional about looking at where you're at in your 4G steps. Which ones you haven't taken, or which ones you may even think you've taken, but you haven't done very well. You come to church every week, you got that going, you have a group of friends, you got that going. You've even sat in on a few Sunday schools years ago, but you don't do anything for the kingdom of God. Come with me and serve this week. Yeah. They might be older than you and you can still be pouring into them, right? This isn't about age. This is where you see, this is where most of the passion, most of the time is going to be spent. Because this is the idea that I think if we can really grab a hold of it, and it's not just another sermon Kent preached, it's not just another program that was introduced, It was an actual life-change event for us as a church. This is the thing, 10 years from now, there will be people sitting around here talking about Angela, the way that she led me to Jesus. How many of you have ever baptized somebody? Can you raise your hand? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anybody else? How many of you would love to baptize somebody? Raise your hand. Come on, be honest. Raise your hand big. That's like the most amazing thing. I got to sit at church camp this week with this adult sponsor who had never baptized anybody, and this little girl asked her if she would baptize her, and this lady was bawling. She was like, she was like a teenager herself also. She was old, she was in her 50s. She turned into a teenager. She said, how am I going to do this, Caleb? I was like, it's easy. Have you ever dunked a kid in the pool? Same thing, same concept. You just have to say some stuff while you're doing it. She had never ever even considered that she might get to be a part of providing the Okodome to somebody's life who didn't know Jesus. All of a sudden, she was increasing that little girl's potential to know Jesus. And she got to be the one who stood over her as she left her old life in the water and came up to new life. Tell me again, how many of you want to do that? Raise your hands. Be honest. We should all want to do that. Man, that gets me pumped to even talk about baptizing somebody. Holy smokes, you know why we're afraid to raise our hand? Because we never even thought it possible for me to do that. Do you know why? Because all the power, all the authority, this isn't a bad thing, it's just the way church was done for the last 100 years or so. Not always done. The New Testament church had this thing going on, baby. But the last 100 years or so, it's been about this guy up here. He does them all, right? He's the one that you talk to if you want to get baptized. Scott, how many baptisms do you think you've done in the last 6 months?
I don't know. No.
Lots, right? He doesn't want to say. He doesn't know. He can't count them. That's on Facebook. This guy almost once every couple of weeks. I know. I'm not trying to build you up at all. I'm not promising you get to baptize somebody, but I can guarantee you'll never baptize somebody if you never take that +1 living. If you don't look for the person around you who hasn't taken these steps and think about how can I help them take their next step. Here's what I love. I wrote this handbook. I asked my wife to help proof it. I got in trouble for not. I thanked her and told her how much I loved her, but I didn't say that she helped me proof it, so I'm in trouble. I'm telling you all now. But Jenny read this book to proof it for me, to edit it. And what was super cool to me was she came up after reading it. And she said, you know what? Maybe I should invite some of the teenage girls over to bake with me when I bake. Because I could pour into them and they could be my +1, my +1s. And we could hang out. Because Jenny already bakes stuff. And how hard is it to say, you want to come over and bake with me? Right? Yeah? You all, guess what? You all already do stuff. How many of you mow a lawn? You're welcome to come mow mine. All right? You can be my +1. Keith, you already do service calls, right? You can take a teen with you. I know not every adult can do that, but you can take somebody with you. The reason this is so, I said this is not something that's a program for me, because this is how I came to Jesus. I had a Sunday school teacher who was a rancher, and I'm this goofy, uncoordinated kid. He would take me out to his ranch, and he would have me trying to rope cows, and I was no good at it. I felt goofy, but he poured into me. I was his +1. This is about the church being the church, living out discipleship, making disciples for Jesus. It is my hope, church. It is my hope that we will take this so seriously that every one of you will read that book and you will start to say, not Kent's a great writer, or Kent's fancy dancy, but that you would go, who could my +1 be? You serve in the kitchen ministry? I bet there's ladies in here who would love to get involved in that and love to learn from some of you ladies who are a little more well-aged than the rest of us. You know that's even a biblical concept that the older women were born to younger women, right? We just don't have a model, we don't have a way of doing it. This gives us the way to think about doing it. I'm telling you, this idea will change everything you do in the church. You are no longer a maintenance, you no longer just perform maintenance in the church. You are inviting somebody to be your plus one, and you are coaching somebody in their relationship with Jesus while you're performing maintenance in the church. Now that's exciting. Performing maintenance, not so exciting. Helping somebody grow closer in their relationship and walk with Jesus, exciting. Yes? Man, this morning I want to offer to you, I'm going to ask the worship team to come up. We're going to do this song. Both of those are invitation and closing. I'll pray after we're done with the song, and then we'll finish. Okay, because we're going a little bit long today, I think. But I want to invite you this morning. I'm going to ask all of you. So get prepared. Get your big boy pants on. I'm asking all of you this, all right? I have names of lots of people who came and didn't come back. And I know for a fact that several of these families aren't even going to church. And it breaks my heart. It should break our hearts. It should make us dig into whatever it takes to get the same language so we can all get on the same page, so we can all move forward together, so we can all, when we tap out the melody for people, they hear the melody. They hear the song we're singing, and we invite them to sing the song with us, and the chorus, as we sing it, rises up to God in the heavens, and He is proud to say, that is my church. That's what the body looks like when it's at its best. I'm going to invite you to do something a little crazy, a little weird, a little odd for you. I'm going to take these cards, I'm going to lay them upside down along the edge of the stage up here. And I don't want you to read their names because this is not about gossiping people, and these people didn't give out their information for it to be made public. But I do want you to come up, and if you're physically able, even if it hurts you a little bit, but it's okay, I want to invite you to come and kneel before the stage and pray for these people. If you're not physically able, and I totally get that, I want to invite you to come up and sit on these pews up here that nobody ever sits on. And I want you to pray for those people. And if you're not physically able to get up and move in a crowd, which I totally get, I want to invite you to stay where you're at, seated, and to pray before God Almighty that He would reach back into their hearts and their minds, and we would get another opportunity, another chance to help them find their way back home to God, for them to become disciples of Jesus. And if you have taken a God step, a group step, a growing step, or a going step, start taking them. I am offering this morning, let's be clear, a going step for you. Let's live out our faith. Let's pray for people. I believe until our church gets a fervent passion for prayer, none of this is going to even touch anything. It's going to be our hearts being submitted to the heart of God, and Him using that to disciple people. You see how it all follows the cogs fit, and all of a sudden it's like powerful. You can't stop it. So this morning as we sing the song, I'm asking you to have a little bit of guts to get up here and come pray for these people.